Hello everybody, Darren here, and today I'm going to be talking about one of my most anticipated games for 2021, and that is Manor Lords. Now, I don't normally make videos on games before they release if I haven't played them. I try not to feed into the hype too much, and honestly was quite skeptical when I first saw this game pop up a few months ago. But something changed my mind and gave me a big vote of confidence since following the game a bit more closely. This was something I thought was worth sharing and, in a sense, worth hyping up. That something is the developer's commitment to taking on feedback and his speedy and impressive implementation of new features that I've waited to see personally in other games for years. Later in this video, I'm going to show you how Greg, the solo developer working on the game, took a request that I made, asked me in detail how I would implement it, and made it a reality, all in the space of 2 to 3 days. But first, this video is sponsored by Exter. Exter are having a Christmas sale. Exter designs smart, stylish, and trackable wallets. Their flagship model, the Parliament wallet, is slim and compact with an aluminium casing for your cards that is RFID protected, preventing identity theft and card skimming. The casing also provides quick access to your cards. At the press of a button, the cards fan out for you to take your pick and slot back into the wallet snugly. All of this is wrapped in premium quality leather that gives your wallet a unique look and feel as it ages. Exter's slim-fitting GPS tracker card can be placed in the wallet and paired with your phone. The tracker is solar-powered with a 2-hour charge lasting 2 months. The card lets you track its last location, call it through the app, or set it to alert you should you get too far away from it. Exter's entire product range, including wallets, key holders, laptop and phone cases, are all covered by the Christmas sale, which if you click the link in the description, you'll get a 25% discount on checkout or 35% on orders over $200. I highly recommend the Fortuna Parliament, Exter's limited edition premium wallet. It has exceptional quality leather and golden accents, which makes for a beautiful and thoughtful gift. For those who want as compact a wallet as possible, the Senate card holder is extremely neat and affordable. The sale lasts until December 26th, so don't delay. Remember to check the link in the description, and thank you to Exter. So, Manor Lords describes itself as a medieval strategy game that combines deep, organic, and realistic city building with large-scale tactical battles. The game doesn't yet have an official release date, but it seems reasonable to expect it to enter into early access sometime in 2021. When it comes to the city building, Manor Lords is a gridless and dynamic city builder where you can adjust roads and field sizes to your own discretion, and the placement snaps and aligns to other buildings and to the roads to give a very natural feel to the settlement. Bigger fields will support more animals and crops, but have increased worker load, and they can have limits to their size. Similar to something like Banished, the game seems to operate on a job system for your population where they'll work the land to provide resources, and those resources will then in turn be refined into more specialist goods. The refined goods can go for higher prices, and they will attract traveling merchants who will then buy them from you, which is the only way to accumulate wealth. There's a regional overview map in Manor Lords with 50 regions occupied by different lords and ladies. The regions can specialize in certain fertilities or ores, allowing you to focus them for farming or mining or refinement. As you upgrade the settlements in a region, you'll earn development points. This tech tree is upgraded separately in each region, allowing you to specialize them each differently. Now, while traders are the only way to get wealth, you do have your own separate Lord's Treasury that you accumulate by taxing your citizens, and there's different taxes for different things. The tithe goes to the church, and the church will give you back influence, which in turn allows you to expand on the map either through diplomacy or earn other benefits from the king. In diplomacy, you spend influence to lower the influence of other lords by slinging insults their way. To prevent the loss of influence, they could instead reject your insult and go to war. It's worth mentioning that these are just some of the things I've picked up from the tooltips, and what it is I'm sure is some placeholder text. If Manor Lords does a video detailing diplomacy or other features in future, and people want, I'll continue to cover the game. Just let me know, drop a like, and if the video does well, I'll be right back on it. So, let's say they reject our insult and we have war. Though it hasn't been explicitly stated, it seems war is waged for taking regions, though there are also some scenes named Crusader region, so perhaps you can fight crusades to further earn influence or some other favor. Units are broken down into 3 categories. You can rally your peasant militia from their homes, they'll grab basic tools and weapons and stop working their jobs. It's also said that you're going to need multiple villages worth of peasants to really form an army with them, so it would be a pretty big heavy blow to your economy. You can improve your militia at training camps and archery ranges over time. The second category is mercenaries, which cost silver, which are much more well-disciplined and capable troops, and then you have the Lord's personal retinue, which can be customizable elite units that are small in number, though no information on how numerous they are or what costs are involved in raising them just yet. Now, up to this point, I've largely covered everything that's been shown in Manor Lords' own gameplay trailer breakdown, but now I'll come back to discussing the game's development and what has given me the confidence in this game to want to do a full video on it. On Manor Lords' Twitter, Greg, the sole developer, has been posting behind-the-scenes type development footage, mostly of battles. The battles, of course, is what a lot of people in the Total War community are keenly focused on. It's often said there's no competition for Total War, and in some cases this may be true. This might be one of the first games that actually comes close, along with something like Ultimate General. So, we don't have much details on combat, and we have not seen large-scale battles. At most, we've seen 3 or 4 units clashing. Now, I mention this because hype can often get away from us. We see one thing on screen, and we imagine that it must mean that there's more. You can see a few units clashing, and then you picture big battlefields and sieges. We don't yet know the scope of battles, and AI is a massive factor in this as well, which for a single developer is going to be very time-consuming and tough to figure out in any true dynamic fashion. But what's instilled confidence in me is after receiving some minor criticism and feedback regarding the combat animations shown so far, which looked a little bit stiff, and to be honest, again for a single developer, I thought looked pretty great. Greg just got to work, and over the month of November, basically redeveloped animations and vastly improved collisions, combat charges, added new formations and formation dragging, as well as the feature I've been begging Creative Assembly to do since Total War Rome 2 came out. So, let's take a look at these more in depth. The first one I want to show is the implementation of a sort of a ripple effect from a charge impact. As the front line gets hit with the charge, the knockback continues further into the back lines. Here it looks a little dramatic, as almost every single man in the unit pretty much gets pushed back, but after it was tweaked and refined, we have this. Here's an example of a polearm unit charging into a spear and shield unit. Now the spear and shield unit are braced, and only the first couple of lines actually get the effect of the knockback. I think this as an infantry charge looks really good, and natural. There's also other behaviors that are a bit more subtle. You'll notice as that unit charges in, it's much more narrow than the wider spear wall that's defending. The individuals to the sides actually turn to face where that impact is going to be, instead of blindly just facing forward the whole time. This looks really great. I wonder how it's going to handle 2 units charging at different times. Are the units going to face what's in front of them, or do they face what's closest? We'll have to see. You'll notice as well that there is indeed blood and matched combat animations, seemingly just for the kill moves. Now, as long as these are kept to a short length of about 1 to 3 seconds, I think they could look really great and they won't disrupt the battle lines. It's also worth noting that matched animations seem to have their own collision, preventing other units running through them, at least from what I can see. Here's where we get even more interesting. The polearm unit activates a stance called Push. It's subtle, but the unit will try to maintain cohesion and slowly step ever more forward. The furthest back ranks edge forward and forward, leaving no gaps, and cheering on the front line as they begin to slowly carve a path through the enemy's defenses. But they do start getting wrapped around on the edges a little. It's very reminiscent of something like the Battle of Cannae, just in one unit. The unit eventually does break, and most of the men run away, though some do sort of get stuck, so maybe some work to be done there, I think, if we're being picky. Next, let's look at how units move. Manor Lords has a drag formation system most people are familiar with, and also a draw line waypoint system, where you can draw a line and the unit will kind of follow it around. Units have different stances. This one here goes into a shield wall and starts slowly moving forward, as well as a loose spacing. You'll notice in the top left, this is called the Muslim region, and also referred to as the Crusader region in other videos. But either way, it seems there are some sort of loose plans to represent crusades or foreign lands eventually. Next we have an entire formation drag. Now this is a long requested feature in the Total War community, and it's a bit more interesting than it first lets on. Here we have about 3 units in a sort of half square. They're grouped together and move together with one regular drag move. Regardless of how wide you make the square, the units will adjust their rank and file and keep their overall formation even if it needs to expand or contract. Really impressive, though I'm guessing that this is a preset formation. Otherwise, if it is truly dynamic, it'd be very interesting to actually be able to lock contact points together like that. This means you could, for instance, make more irregular shapes like an L or an X and just keep the shape regardless of its size. Now, it does beg the question, when would you need to use these? So far, we've only seen flat maps and small battles, but nevertheless, it is very interesting. So, after seeing how fast Greg was able to implement these features, I asked him on Twitter if he could implement a stepping backwards move order. That is a sort of a controlled retreat while facing forwards. It's always bothered me that in Total War games, if you give the order to move back, the unit's going to do that 180 degrees turn, expose its back, causing it to technically be flanked or hit by missiles for extra damage, and then if it does ever get back in place, it'll turn around again. Thematically, it just kind of made no sense that a phalanx or a heavily disciplined unit would do this, and it always just broke my immersion. This suggestion got a lot of interest on Twitter from a few other content creators who are interested in Manor Lords, and Greg said he'd give it a go. The next day, Greg appeared in a stream of mine to ask me how I'd kind of implement this sort of thing. Should it be a stance? Should any unit be able to do it? What happens if the unit's already engaged, or if they're sort of reversing into another unit? What would happen if you wanted them to turn around anyway? Maybe flank someone behind them. There's a lot of weird situations that can kind of come about, but basically, because Manor Lords is aiming for immersion, I suggested that people generally don't want to die, and if they're engaged with an enemy from front, they probably just would never really want to turn their backs until properly disengaged over a set distance. Another day later, and Greg posted a tweet with his progress on the feature so far. I just could not believe it only took him a day. Now, it's not perfect. There's a little bit of sliding going on, but I think it's really, really cool. And with a little bit more time, I could see this being a great way to try and reform your lines when one or two units get a bit too far ahead and you kind of want to pull them back. Or if you're ever defending a street and you want to just slowly pull back to a town center. So because of Manor Lords' constant, fast iterations, its beautiful art style, its combination of two of my favorite genres, city building and real-time battles, I'm really excited to try out Manor Lords. You know, I'm trying to be realistic about what it is and what it can be, and that it will be early access, it will likely be rough at times, but damn if this isn't a game that deserves support for its willingness to innovate. So on the early access page, it says the game will be in early access for 1 to 2 years with regular updates. The full release will include fortifications, soldiers on walls, sieges, gunpowder units, crossbows and cavalry, large endgame cities inspired by the late medieval period, and more maps. In the current early access version, there is city building and management gameplay, AI opponents and diplomacy, one large map with more than 50 regions to conquer, and infantry battles. I think what could also do wonders for this game is some sort of multiplayer and modding. Those are two things I hope we get to see at some point in the future. Now, Manor Lords development is also supported on Patreon. I've left a link in the description if you want to go support the development directly. They also have a Discord and a subreddit where Greg is taking suggestions. Of course though, I would encourage people as best as they can to really think through any suggestions you may have, as it can be overwhelming for one person to sift through, and too many broad ideas can often lead to developers just kind of slowly ignoring them. So if you do interact with Greg or have suggestions, think of what would actually benefit the game, what could be cool to see in future, and what is actually doable. On a personal note, I'm hoping to see some larger battles and some interesting terrain to fight on, as well as the option to kind of play sort of tall, staying in a few regions, trading for resources, building fortifications to defend yourself, and things like that. Famine and disease could also be quite interesting, as many city builders don't really provide that much of a challenge. It'd be nice to have harsher winters with spoiled food where you really have to think about sacrifice and where to put your money. Anyways, that is all I have to talk about for Manor Lords at the moment. Remember, if you want to see more about this game from me, please do consider liking the video. It really helps a lot, and let me know what you think of it in the comments below. I'm eager to hear people's thoughts on it. That's all from me. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Hey guys, thank you very much for watching, and remember, if you want to support this series directly, you can click the join button to become a channel member. Doing so will get your name in the credits, as well as loyalty badges and emotes to use in the comments. If you don't see the join button, it means the video has been copyright claimed, but you can still join from the channel page on desktop. You can also link your account to our Discord to get a special role on there that'll give you access to the Senate House and a few other perks.